Jennifer has again. What role does hydration play in fascial mobility?
It's huge, but the thing is, drinking structured water, liquids, if you don't have the connection to breath and your body is full of adhesion, those adhesions are creating a dehydrated, frozen terrain. So, I mean, again, living here in Winnipeg, in the wintertime, it's dry and frozen because we don't have the heat, we don't have the flow in the body. So, yes, what we ingest is incredibly important, but really, fascia hydration comes from the melting of adhesions and getting that blood and oxygen into that tissue. And we need proper hydration from, drinking and all of that stuff to support that. But that alone isn't going to change the game with the adhesions because of the fact that they do grip and they lock you. So again, even eating the best organic, healthy foods or taking the most amazing supplements, those adhesions aren't going to allow the nutrients to reach their destination because it's like you've got a bunch of beaver dams in the way. So this work is all about removing those beaver dams, those adhesions, that scar tissue, those roadblocks, so that everything else you're doing will actually get to the intended cell or cells.
Um, Tori, I love your question. This is all new information to me. Well, it was me too, actually. So, I don't have a wood block, but I do want to do something starting today. What can I do to get started today? This is from Tori. And I'm going to drop some links, but I'm going to let Kelly talk on that.
That's a
You go ahead,
great
Kelly.
question because everybody has to start somewhere. And one thing I love about what Deanna has done is if you have the nothing, you can still get started. That sampler program is going to be where you want to start. Just because it's gentle, it teaches you about the breath, it goes through every part of your body. I will say this, if you get the sampler program, reach out. One of the positions is on your knees. There are alternate positions for everything.
Yeah.
Which is another reason I love block therapy. I have a client who's messaging me, can I do this? Adapt it however it works for you.
Bomb the conversation again and say, nobody is as bad at starting anything as me. Kelly, we've been talking about this a while. Even though I'm slim and look fit, the towel personally was plenty for me to start. I want the block because I want to be like Kelly and Deanna, but I haven't actually got the block yet.
So I'd like Deanna and I to talk a little bit about the what ifs because they're endless if you just go down the what if pathway. And so I had all those questions too, but my answer to all the what ifs is, well, why not? Why not try? And whatever you encounter, there is support for that. So, what if you have pain? Well, what if you have pain, but you could figure out a way to decrease your pain?
Can I share?
Sure.
So the thing about pain, we're not adding pain to your body. We are moving into your tissue to make you aware of the pain that's deeper than what you're consciously aware of. And the beautiful thing about the body is pressure overrides pain. So the pressure fibers in your body are larger in diameter than the pain fibers. So, you bang something really hard and you intuitively rub it because pressure feels good on an area that hurts. When we block, so here's my block, and let's just say we're wanting to do the belly position and you think, oh my gosh, there's no way I can lie on that. That's going to be way too hard. You can absolutely lie on your back and simply apply a little bit of pressure with your hands into the area. And the rule, and there's only two rules actually in block therapy. The most important one is your breath is your guide. As long as you're breathing in a relaxed way, your nervous system feels safe and you're going to get benefit. If your breath says, I don't like this, and your breath becomes stressed, that's your body saying no. And that's why we have so many ways to adapt. So if the way I'm showing it, it's causing that stressed breath, no, we don't want you doing that. But we want you to find a way where you can approach it in a beautiful, calm, supportive way. And even starting with your hands. I've got lots of classes in my membership where you use your hands on your body. And the thing is, lying on your back and simply placing your hands on your belly and feeling the breath come from here, pressure with your hands in your own body feels beautiful. And then before you know it, you can go a little deeper, you can go a little deeper. And then maybe it feels okay now to lie on your back and add a little pressure. And then maybe you get to a point where that doesn't really feel like much anymore. So then you want to try lying on the bed. And then the bed eventually doesn't feel like enough. And then you want to move to the floor. So the thing is, when we can understand that we're not trying to go from 0 to 100 overnight, all we want to do is make tomorrow better than today. That's it. Like, one step at a time, one day at a time. And then before you know it, weeks go by and you're able to do something you weren't able to do weeks before. And that just keeps getting easier and better as you keep tapping into this beautiful body that you have.
Yeah. And speaking to that, the way the block is designed, it's rounded on all the edges, so it's not going to be digging in. The
Yeah.
other thing that I find sometimes I've gotten, those guns chiropractors have with the point and they like
Activators, I think they're called.
jackhammer you. It's one point and the pressure is very strong.
Yeah.
When you're using the block or a towel, whatever you start with, the surface is large enough that it's the difference between like jabbing yourself and using your hand to put pressure.
Yes.
And one reason I love it too is because you're not relying on someone else to like sort of figure out how much lipedema hurts and how much pressure they should use, because they're always going to overdo it. You're relying on yourself. And so with the block, the pressure spreads out over that whole surface rather than just being a point of pressure. And that will feel like less pain than if you are just poking or stabbing. And that goes to Amanda. I saw Amanda just popped up a question. What are some ideas for those with limited mobility or pain? And one of those is like, if you can't get on the floor, you can use a bed or a couch, or you can lean again, put a towel or a block and lean against a wall. I mean, it's really your imagination is your limit as far as how do you use these tools. Deanna has amazing classes, and if you get that sampler program, it'll kind of help you understand how to use it. But every body is different, and every experience on a towel or a block and where you are is different. And your experience today will not be your experience in 6 months, because every time you change and adapt, you're approaching it as like a new body. And so the best thing I've told lipedema women is if you can't get on the floor, use a bed and start slowly. Don't just try to jump in, because your body's already in like this tense fight or flight mode. If you have pain and if you've been dealing with it for a long time, we don't want to ramp that up where your body just says, I will not do that. Because then you're not going to be persuading, you're sort of forcing more pain on yourself, and your body's going to react negatively. We want your body to feel safe in that space. And over time, it will feel safe, especially if you start slowly. It kind of feels like Deanna said, we should do more, hit it harder and go, 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 go. But maybe sometimes when we've been in that mode for so long, we just need to step back and just let ourselves rest and relax and go into this with just like have a mind shift where it's okay to be gentle and give yourself grace and persuade and ask instead of force.
And a good way to think about it is, if you're scared, somebody gives you a hug, it calms you down, right? It feels really, really lovely to be held. So think of all of your cells. There's so many cells that are blocked from your conscious awareness because of those adhesions. So when you put pressure and you just hold, it's like you're giving your cells a hug. So whether you're using your hand or a tool, even just, put your hands on your face, and not just for a moment, but like allow them to be there for like 3 minutes. That's the second rule. First one is your breath is your guide. The second one, we want to stay in position for a minimum of 3 minutes, but you can stay in as long as you want. And if 3 minutes initially feels too much, Let your breath be your guide, but we can't force melting or rush melting. Melting takes time. We have to heat the area up. So just by placing your hand for 3 minutes somewhere, not rubbing, rubbing can be really irritating actually to an area that doesn't feel good. And that's why oftentimes massage doesn't feel good. It's because we've got all this chaos and then you're rubbing over chaos and it's just like, just stop, don't touch me. But if you place and you allow and you connect to your breath, then you start to sink and go deeper. And that's the thing, because once you start to go deeper, again, we get that parasympathetic nervous system kicking in through that full exhale. One of the first things I would suggest, no matter what, when you're lying on your back, place your hands on your belly and exhale for a longer count than you inhale. That turns on your parasympathetic nervous system. So right away, it starts putting you in that rest and digest, healing space. If we're stressed and we're trying so hard and then we're frustrated because it hurts too much and we just throw it aside, you're like, oh God, just stay away from me. But just allow with the hand. And it really is that simple to start. Just think that your support, like think of your cells like being your little children or little puppies or whatever that makes your heart just expand and you're wanting to hold them and make them feel okay. They are working so hard on your behalf. And I love sharing, there's a video, if you Google it, called Life of a Cell. It's about 3 minutes long by David Belinsky. And inside, it shows the universe of this beautiful synchronized activity inside every single one of your trillions of cells. It brings me to tears every time because it's so beautiful to think this is actually happening without us even realizing it. And for those of us that are hating our body, and believe me, I was one of those, hated my body for years. And when I started to understand that what we think we become, for me, it was my belly. That was where I carried all my 50 extra pounds, my belly primarily. And I mean, I was constipated. It was full of inflammation. It was awful. And I hated it. And then I read this book and I'm like, well, no wonder it's doing this because I don't love it, right? So then I started taking that moment. The first time I took my clothes off and stood in front of the mirror naked and I said, I love my body, I actually blushed because I knew I was lying and I was alone, lying to myself, but I kept doing it. I kept doing it. And then it started to soften and then it started to change. And then I started to believe it. So it is a progress, but again, those little things that you can do, even though it feels so against your current moment, it does create beautiful change.
Amanda also added, I really learned my lesson about being about more. Hang on, I'm having a tongue tie on a Monday. Being better and pushing harder. I set myself back months. It was before block therapy. I was using other massage tools and overdid it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
That
that's again like
happens.
it's force versus persuasion, and again like anytime that's why too we also like anything that where you're rolling on the surface and your body is moving, and sometimes we think like that porous softer tool it's okay because it's not so hard. That can actually create more irritation to your body because it's very hard to be aware and intentional while you're moving. So with blocking whatever tool you use, you are moving, but you're moving very differently than moving the body, right? Like you're connected into one spot and the actions are super slow. And we actually teach you to search for pain because the pain is where the adhesion is. But again, those pressure fibers override the pain. So as you do it intentionally and slowly, then you really start to become aware of your limitations and what your body likes and what it doesn't like. And then you adapt accordingly. And again, I mean, reach out to Kelly. If you've got questions and you don't understand something, Kelly is your best resource. But block therapy in general, we've got so many resources for anybody that goes into this practice. So you're never alone.
Hey, Deanna, here is something that fascinated me when I first started block therapy. Why is it that you can be in so much pain and over a couple of block therapy sessions or classes, it seems to reduce pain so quickly? You bump into a door frame, it's incredibly painful, but it seems like that, like sharp pain with pressure or touch, a lot of that resolves so fast when you're doing this kind of work.
Well, because we're decompressing. So again, think of that. Let's kind of just use an analogy here. Let's say you are incredibly taxed. You're exhausted, you haven't slept, you haven't eaten well, maybe you're hungover, maybe you're stressed, and then you have to walk in to a job and you're getting pummeled. Think of the difference that how that person's going to respond compared to the person that's well nourished, well rested, well hydrated, feels calm, feels loved. Then they walk into that same scenario, you're going to be very different, right? That person that's well everything can handle things. It's like your rib cage. You know, have you ever heard that, oh, a baby fell off of a two-story building and survived? You know, they fell, they've got all the space, they bounce. Where the, 80-year-old can just fall from a chair and break a hip and they shatter. It's the amount of space that we have inside the body, and the space comes from the breath. So when we start working with the diaphragm, we can feed the body up to 600% more oxygen breathing diaphragmatically. That's a huge amount of oxygen. We also, 84% of weight loss comes through proper exhalation because of the detoxifying effects. So it doesn't take long to get your breath going with this work and to suddenly change your entire nervous system, to change how much oxygen is in your body. So then we start to feel different because also you're realigning things. So now all of that tension, where that would hurt, suddenly you have the adaptability in your cellular structure to handle pressure where prior you didn't.
So many times people work on their fascia. I've heard it a lot of times, and then they stop because they have this worse before better scenario.
Yeah, those healing
And
opportunities.
yeah, and I remember messaging you and saying, I am so excited because I took a new picture and my thighs look like crap because I knew what that meant. So I love your analogy about the river that you could see out your window. Could you sort
Yep.
of explain why your legs might look like crap? And it's not a time to stop. That's not an indication of a bad thing.
No, so think about, okay, again, like I don't anymore live above the river, but I lived over a river for 17 years of my life. And Winnipeg, again, we can be plus 35 Celsius in the summer, minus 35, minus 40 in the winter. So we freeze and thaw and freeze and thaw. And I've watched the river go through the journey multiple times of freezing and thawing. And what happens every single year in the spring is, the sun starts beating down, the temperature starts warming, you start getting a nice little trickle of flow in the river and it goes through its journey. But then there's a moment in time when there's enough heat that all of the stuff starts coming down and you've got like the big icebergs and the trees. Like there's enough energy where now it just looks like ballooned and it's full of debris. That's the leg that's going to look not so good or not as positive as before, because before, when you're in a deep freeze, you don't have any space. So everything looks really compacted. And I've had so many women, particularly when I'll say they might have really, really like hard, firm, tight legs, but then they balloon up the body. And I'll say to them, well, your issue's in your legs. And then they'll often say, well, that's my best feature. It's because there's no space. Like you don't even jiggle at all when it's relaxed. It actually can't relax. So as you start heating and melting the body and those superficial adhesions, they start to melt. Now you start to see the deeper twists and pulls. And now you start to have those deeper toxins that were trapped come up so that they can be released. They come up in the bloodstream. So things can sometimes look and feel worse because healing is not a straight line. It's typically you're going to feel better and then you might feel worse, but then it's not going to be as bad as where you were when you were worse, worse, worse. And then you're going to feel a little better. So it's going to move up this way, but it's not a straight line. It takes energy for the body to heal. So as we start putting positive energy into the body, the negative stuff gets disjarred and then it has to come out, and it can come out through the skin. It can be, oh, I feel like I have a cold or a fever, because now your body has the energy to be sick, but it's not sick. It's actually heating up so it can move out what no longer serves. It might be skin rash, depending on where the toxins were. It could be suddenly emotional releases, like, why am I bawling my eyes out even though I'm not sad, that I'm aware of? Like, there's been no immediate impulse for me to be that way yet. I just am dumping out all of this stuff. And that's the healing crisis, or I like to call them healing opportunities, because it can feel like a crisis, but really, that's really just what we need to go through to pull it up and pull it out. And I'm 26 years in. I mean, I still have them, and I want to have them because I'm not done. Like, I want to get to those deeper things that are still stuck and stored super far away from my conscious awareness, so that I have that energy to pull them up and out and then get to a new level of depth to pull out even the older stuff. So it's a lifestyle. It's not like you're ever going to get to like, oh, I'm perfect, I don't need this anymore. None of us will ever be that way. Gravity's constantly pulling you down. This is a very toxic world we live in. So you really want a system that understands how to support moving out the bad, pulling in the good, and then living your best life.
Awesome. I love that analogy a lot because I can just like see the breaking apart of things.
I just appreciate all of this time with y'all. It's been so fun. My book is going to be called TIP, Trauma Induces Programming and Patterning. It literally causes you to tip off balance. So there's a couple of meetings, and here's a tip for you.
We'll have links to that, I assume, when it's available.
Yes.
Deanna, thank you so much for your
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me and for being such a beautiful, inspiring student, teacher, both, right? You teach me, we all learn together. We're all teachers and we're all students, and we just, the most important thing I think is like, we just really have to understand that there's so much more to these things than we have been given information about. And the more we can find out about our own selves through tapping into our own intelligence, the more you know about yourself. And then the more intuitive you become about what you need. And that's not to say we never need outward help, because we do at times. But there's so much that we can do for ourselves and our cells by understanding how to support your fascia. And most importantly, how to turn on your proper breath.
Yeah, the breath has become more important than I mean, I didn't even know. They don't talk, nobody talks about it, but key. It's key.
Yeah.